Hello, I'm Miss Anne, and I'll be reading The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen, the OG Elsa. The carriage rolled on into the dark forest. Like a blazing torch, it shone in the eyes of some robbers, including a fearsome robber woman. "That's gold! That's gold!" they cried. They sprang forward, seized the horses, and pulled little Gerda out of the carriage. The robber woman's wild daughter had other ideas, however. Spoiled, cruel, and unruly, the little girl seized Gerda herself. "She shall play with me," she said the little girl. "She must give me the fur boots she wears." The girl intended to keep Gerda as her playmate, but when she heard the little girl's story, a bit of pity bloomed in her fierce little heart. When a pair of pigeons told the girls they had seen Kai in the Snow Queen's sleigh headed north to Lapland, the robber girl changed her plan. The next day, the robber girl led Gerda outside to a sad tethered reindeer who assured them both he knew the way to Lapland, where the snow and ice never melt. The robber girl hoisted little Gerda into a reindeer's back and carefully tied her in place. "Here, take back your fur boots, for it's going to be bitter cold," she said. Gerda shed happy tears, but the robber girl just scoffed. The robber girl cut the tether with her knife and said to the reindeer, "Now run, but see that you take good care of the little girl." The reindeer leapt for joy, for he was free. He bounded away as fast as he could run. The wolves howled and the ravens shrieked, and above them, red streaks of light ripped through the heavens. "Those are my old northern lights," said the reindeer, faster than ever by night and day. When the reindeer reached Lapland, he stopped in front of a little hut where an old woman lived alone. The reindeer told her Gerda's story. "Oh, you poor creatures," the woman said. "You've still got a long way to go. Why, you will have to travel hundreds of miles into Finnmark. It's where the Snow Queen is taking her country vacation and burning her blue fireworks every evening." Off the reindeer ran again, and all night long along the skies cracked and swished as the beautiful northern lights flashed over their heads. At last they came to Finnmark and knocked at the chimney, another little hut where an old Finn woman lived. The reindeer told Gerda's story and asked the woman to help little Kai. "Little Kai is indeed with the Snow Queen in her palace," said the Finn woman. "Everything there suits him just fine. He thinks it's the best place in all the world, but only because he has a splinter of glass in his heart and a small piece in his eye. Unless these can be removed, he will never be human again, and the Snow Queen will hold him in her power." The reindeer begged the woman to give Gerda a magic potion to enable her to overcome the Snow Queen and Kai. The Finn woman took the reindeer's side. "No power that I already have could be as great as she does. Don't you see how men and beasts are compelled to serve her and how far she has come in the wide world since she started out in her naked feet? We mustn't tell her about this power. Strength lies in the heart because she is such a sweet, innocent child. If she herself cannot reach the Snow Queen and rid little Kai of those pieces of evil glass, then there is no help we can give her." The woman then lifted Gerda back into the reindeer and sent them off so quickly, Gerda forgot her boots and mittens. The reindeer did not dare stop, though, and ran until they reached the Snow Queen's garden. There he sat Gerda down. Then, with big shining tears running down his face, he ran back to the Finn woman as fast as he could. Little Gerda was alone in the middle of icy Finnmark. Gerda ran towards the palace through the whipping snow. The snowflakes skirmished along the ground, and they were near as they came, and larger they grew. They were monstrous and terrifying, and alive. They were the Snow Queen's advance guard, all in glistening white, and their shapes were most strange. Some looked like overgrown porcupines, some looked like snakes, and others looked like bears with every hair a bristle. It was so cold that Gerda could see her breath freezing in front of her mouth like a cloud of smoke. It grew thicker and thicker and took shape of the little angels that grew bigger and bigger the moment they touched the ground. All of them had helmets over their heads and they carried shields and lances in their hands. Rank upon rank they increased, and Gerda was surrounded by a legion of angels. They struck the dread snowflakes in their lances, and they shivered them into 1,000 pieces. Little Gerda bravely walked on. The angels rubbed her hands and feet so she felt the cold a little less, and she hurried towards the palace of the Snow Queen. The walls of the palace were driven in snow. There were more than 100 halls shaped as the snow has drifted, and the largest of these extended for many a mile. The flare of the northern lights illuminated every one of these empty, vast, frigid halls. In the middle of the most colossal glacial hall of snow was a frozen lake, cracked into 1,000 pieces of ice, and at the exact center of the lake sat the Snow Queen. Little Kai sat next to her and was blue, yes, almost black with the cold, but he did not feel it because the Snow Queen had kissed away his icy tremblings, and his heart itself was almost turned into ice. He was shifting some sharp, flat pieces of ice to and fro, trying to fit them every possible pattern, for he wanted to make something with them. He arranged his pieces and spelled out many words, but he could never find the way to make the one word he was so eager to form. The word was eternity. The Snow Queen had said to him, "If you can puzzle that out, you shall be your own master, and I will give you the whole world and a new pair of skates." But he could not figure it out. The Snow Queen turned to him. "Now I'm going to make a flying trip to the warm countries," she said. "I want to go and take a look at the black volcanoes and whiten them up a little bit." Away she flew. Kai sat all alone in that endless, empty, frigid hall and puzzled over the pieces of ice until his head ached. It was at that moment that little Gerda came through the great gate of the palace and into the vast, cold, empty hall. She saw Kai and recognized him at once. She ran to throw her arms around him, held him close, and cried, "Kai, dearest little Kai, I've found you at last." But he sat still and stiff and cold. Gerda shed hot tears, and when they fell upon him, they went straight to his heart. They melted the lump of ice and burned away the splinter of evil glass in it. He looked up at her, and she sang softly to him, cradling him in her arms. Kai burst into tears. He cried so freely that the little piece of glass in his eye was washed right out. "Gerda!" He knew her, and he cried out in his happiness, "My sweet little Gerda, where have you been so long, and where have I been?" He looked around him and said, "How cold it is here, how enormous and empty." He held fast to Gerda, who laughed until happy tears rolled down her cheeks. Their bliss was so boundless that even the bits of glass danced about them and shared their happiness. When the pieces grew tired, they dropped into a pattern which made the very word that the Snow Queen had told Kai he must find before he became his own master and received the whole world and a new pair of skates: eternity. The Snow Queen might come home now whenever she pleased, for there stood the order for Kai's release, written in letters of shining ice. Gerda kissed Kai's cheeks, and they turned pink again. She kissed his eyes, and they sparkled like hers. She kissed his hands and feet, and he became strong and well. Hand in hand, Kai and Gerda strolled out of the enormous palace. They talked about grandmother and how they loved their beloved roses. With the help of the reindeer, they made the journey home. Wherever they walked, the sun shone, and spring bloomed around them. The land was green and strewn with flowers. Bells rang, and they saw the high steeples. They walked straight home, where everything was just as it was when they left it. But the clock said tick-tock, and its hands were telling the time. But the moment they came into the door, they noticed one change. They were all grown up now. Both of them had forgotten the icy, empty splendor of the Snow Queen's palace, as completely as if it were some bad dream. Grandmother sat in the sunshine and read. Kai and Gerda sat out amongst the roses. They were grown up, but children, still children at heart. And it was summer, warm, glorious summer. The end.